Welcome to OH-Brew. I'm Craig Morris and I like beer, but I prefer the unique flavors and aromas of the many craft beers now available. In this series, I will be in search of Ohio's finest beers, with Ohio ranking 5th in craft beer production and already close to 300 breweries and new ones popping up all the time. We have a lot of beer to drink. Today, we'll be visiting the Lockport Brewery, about a mile east of Interstate 77 on Route 212 in Bolivar. It is the first brewery in Tuscarawas County in over 65 years, and it's owned and operated by Andrew and Lauren Marburger, and it's listed at number 25 of the top 40 breweries by Ohio Explored, a website that finds the best things in Ohio. Opening in November of 2016, their popularity has grown fast. People come from all around to taste their award-winning beers. In this episode, we'll be talking to Andrew and Lauren about how they got started and what's in store for the future. They will show us the new brew house, and at the end of the day, we'll talk to Clientele and get their opinion on Lockport Brewery. Hi there, my name is Craig Morris and welcome to OH-Brew, and we're here today at Lockport Brewery, just right off of 77 in Bolivar, Ohio. Joining me today, Andrew and Lauren Marburger, the owners of Lockport Brewery. And let's get started by starting with a little bit of history, how you guys met, that type of thing, because it's kind of, it's intertwined with the story of what you guys are trying to accomplish today.
Absolutely. So one of the first activities that we enjoyed doing together was going to craft breweries all around Northeast Ohio. And we were actually sitting in a newly opened one up in Cleveland and sort of had a mutual epiphany that we'd like to have our own craft brewery someday. It seemed like a pretty lofty idea. Took us at least another 5 or 6 years of the idea kind of being out there, but never really fully committing to it until about 2 years before we opened.
All right. What was your previous job?
So I used to work at Altman Hospital in Canton. I did safety and HR compliance for them. At the time, I was home brewing pretty extensively. That hobby kept growing and growing. Eventually, I took a shot in the dark and reached out to the brewmaster at Millersburg Brewing Company, Marty Linden. Said I would, sweep floors, just wanted my foot in the door. It was good timing. They were looking for an assistant brewer at the time. Marty hired me about a month later, and that started my brewing career.
All right. And where do you fit in this equation?
Well, my background is in marketing and sales.
Okay.
So we figured eventually when we had a business that could be handy. so far that's been my primary focus, and Andrew's focused on the beer making side, but we obviously cross into each other's domains because it's a family business with the two of us.
Sure. As far as me knowing these two, I was a general manager at Millersburg Brewing Company when Andrew worked for us there. And we even had a special beer named after him at that point in time. It was called Andrew Ice. And it actually sold pretty well, and it was a pretty good tasting brew at that time. So.
Yep, that was a mistake made in the brewing process by yours truly.
And it happens.
Sometimes you got to roll with it.
That's
and
right.
We adapted and ended up being a pretty good beer. So,
Andrew, as far as locations concerned and how this started, 6 years ago, and your ideas transformed into what you have today, give us a little insight on the transformation coming from another location to here.
Sure. So about halfway through my experience at Millersburg, we kind of knew that we wanted to start our own brewery, or we were pretty sure we had the tools to do it. So started developing a business plan. Long story short, we got funding. I alerted the owners out of Millersburg pretty early on, just out of deference for them giving me an opportunity. And it was a good relationship. I was working for them full time. They needed me, I needed them, so I stayed on for about another year and a half until it was time to kind of break off completely. During that time, we were looking for a location. We knew we wanted to start it in our hometown, Bolivar's not the biggest town in the area, but it's where we're from, and we know the people here, and we were pretty sure that it would work out. So we found a spot that was suitable, that we could make work, took a few investors on board, and started the build-out process. And that took us about a year. So from about November 2015 to about November 2016 was our build-out phase, and we opened then about a month before Christmas.
As far as location's concerned, you want to explain a little bit about the first location here in Bolivar and how this came about and what are some of your plans?
So we are sitting in our second brew house area that we've built in just about 3 years. And the way that came about is we had a budget. We built out our program across the street. By about the first weekend open, we pretty much knew we were at capacity. And we would continue to be for about the next 18 months, which was a good problem to have, but it forced us to not be able to get as creative as we wanted to be. We've been limited on the amount of beer that we've been able to make by sheer tank space. There's only so many stainless vessels you can fill. And so we've been remaking a lot of the crowd favorites, which is, again, a good problem. But we knew we wanted to kind of expand at that. Also, we are leasing that first facility. We knew we wanted to own a building that we would be able to invest in long term, not just in the property, but in its contents as well. So we started looking around. We're now in the old Giorgio's restaurant. It was an Italian restaurant. Before that, it was several other restaurants. And we were able to renovate it into a larger, kind of more capable brewery. So this is going to afford us the opportunity to make sure we're maintaining our staple beers, but also doing some stuff that we haven't had the opportunity to do, like sour beers, barrel aging beers, and so on. So that's something that we're looking forward to in the future.
And you're also distributing locally.
We are doing some local self-distribution, very limited. We got accounts that is a very mutually good relationship. It's good for them, it's good for us, and we want to maintain those. And so far, that's going pretty well.
So, as far as the locals are concerned, do you get some people coming from other destinations that have stopped in, tried your beers, and said, "We got to try some more from Lockport"?
We do. So we have we're a pretty good pass-through for a lot of traffic up north, both for people that are continuing south on 77 and people that get off here to head towards Atwood and Tappan Lake. So they got to go right past the brewery to do that. We get a lot of, especially in the summertime, people filling growlers and crowlers for camping. So they always enjoy that. A lot of times, bike trails, all that kind of stuff. A lot of outdoor activities.
And I noticed you have a golf course in your backyard.
Yep. Kind of can't beat that. So nothing goes together like beer and golf, right?
Yeah.
So
well,
makes my game
I don't think
better.
you can do one without the other. I'm sorry.
Absolutely. But a question we do get a lot is where the name came from for the brewery. And Lockport was a staple beer at the last active brewery in Tuscarawas County before Prohibition.
Was that on the south side?
It was on the south side of Philly. Yep. It was the New Philadelphia Brewing Company, and they made Lockport Lager. So we haven't made Lockport Lager yet. We just got into the lager game about sometime last year. Again, a consequence of tank space. We want to make a lot more going forward, so that's definitely in the queue.
Other than beer, I'm a pretty big fan of vinyl, and I noticed you guys have an awesome vinyl collection over there.
Yeah. We actually, we've always been fans of vinyl. I mean, Andrew has always said that it's the true, clearest, best sound that you can possibly get.
He's absolutely correct.
And my younger brother actually had a record wall in his bedroom, and we're like, that's really cool. Maybe we could do that at the brewery. So we took that and blew it up, on a much bigger scale, and now it's a pretty big part of our tap room experience.
Do you guys have some plans on some stuff maybe down the road?
Sure, yeah. Facebook is obviously going to be one of the best places to keep an eye out for what kinds of events that we have coming up. Some of our biggest ones, we were just talking about this, always seem to be the ones that are traditionally based around beer. Surprise, surprise. So St. Patrick's Day, that weekend is always a big weekend. We have Oktoberfest. That'll be the first weekend in October. We had wiener dog races this year, which I wasn't even sure that was an Oktoberfest thing, but apparently it is, and that was a big hit. And then Dingus Day in April, which is a Polish holiday. We do pierogies and we celebrate that as well. So any of the drinking holidays tend to be pretty big events around Lockport.
Well, I was just hoping you weren't going to say that was my birthday, that you were planning on doing that. I'm clear on that one. Some of the other stuff, you mentioned some of your foods. You know, the guy from Sublime Smoke and doing some products. Are you planning on expanding the menu just a little bit? I mean, everything goes good with beer. It doesn't really matter. I think peanut butter does, but you probably don't have it on the menu. But
I think with this expansion that we're doing here in the old Giorgio's building, that's been the number one question we've gotten. Are you going to have more food? You know, we love your sandwiches, and we've got 8 panini sandwiches on our menu right now, and we have some munchies, pub pretzels and beer cheese, that kind of thing. But our kitchen is 8 feet by 5 feet. It's a closet that we turned into a kitchen, so kind of same problem that we had on the brewing side. We're a little small for what we wanted to do. So we're not going to go full white linen restaurant, you know, steaks and seafood kind of thing, but we are going to expand the menu. You know, do some salads, flatbreads, some burgers, the kinds of things that we want to eat too. You know, we've eaten quite a few panini sandwiches in the last couple of years, so we're ready for a little bit bigger menu ourselves.
Sure, I'm sure. Trust me, I understand that to a tilt.
Yep.
Well, I also too know that I get to go to a lot of the shows, and you never got to go to a lot of the beer shows.
Right.
So now it's kind of
it's
flipped back,
absolutely.
and you're the one that gets to attend the big shows in Cleveland and other places, and even the one in Colorado. Do you want to talk to us about that a little bit and tell us?
Sure. So the Great American Beer Festival, kind of the biggest beer competition in the world. It's grown so much. It used to be you could enter almost as many beers as you wanted to. And now breweries are limited to 4. The last 2 years. So it's both a competition and a beer festival. They're kind of separate things. Not every beer on the floor of the festival is judged because there's, you know, several thousand on the floor. But we were able to win a gold medal there this past year in the American Cream Ale category, which is kind of cool, especially because it was the first beer we made at Lockport. It was designed around the idea of introducing people to craft beer, hence the name Gateway. And that was a lot of fun to go head to head with some big breweries and from all around the country and come away with a win. We were very proud of that.
The process to get that beer from here to Colorado,
Yeah.
I always found fascinating.
It is.
Because one of those trucks with just, you know, that blue truck with the label on it, we don't have to mention their name, and the red truck or whatever gets to take your beer and other people's beer in the area and shovel it to Colorado, and I think that's just cool.
And a lot of brewers get together and create one big skid to keep our shipping costs down, but you know, we do everything we can on our end to make sure they're packaged appropriately and as well as they can be, and then we send them off, and it's like sending your kids off to school for the first time. You know?
And I'll see you in a little bit, sunshine.
Yep.
Well, I don't know about you two, but I'm thirsty.
Always
thirsty. And you know, the cool part about it is well, oh, there's some beer right here.
Imagine that.
Tell us about these cans. I know that process is awesome. But
yeah, so for us, since we don't actually do canning for distribution, we had to come up with a little bit better way for people to take beer with them outside of the tap room. So we have the standard 64-ounce glass growlers. Those are great and still a very popular option. But we would find a lot of times, you know, you get a husband and wife couple in there, and they like 2 different beers, and they can't agree on who's going to fill up the big jug with their beer. So the growler has been a really cool addition to our carryout because it's 32 ounces. Hubby can get what he wants, wife can get what she wants, and everybody's happy. We actually came up with, well, not the idea, we didn't come up with it, but we got the idea when we were out in Colorado for the Great American Beer Festival one year. Almost every brewery out there has a growler machine, but they weren't as popular here yet. And we were talking to some breweries out there, and they said, get it, people just love it. So this is how you can take some beer from the tap room. We just fill them right from the taps, seam them on a little machine that sits on the bar, and you're good to go.
What we're drinking is Gateway. Tell us about this beer.
So Gateway, as I mentioned, is an American cream ale. What that means is it's a very classic American style that's brewed with some corn. So corn's going to help to lighten the body of the beer, also contribute a little bit to ABV. Very light, very drinkable. When the local who's never been in our tap room comes in and wants a Bud Light or Budweiser, we point them in the direction to get
We
with.
said we weren't going to say that. Oh, wow.
There you go.
And
Yeah.
we just let the cat out of the bag there.
Yep.
That's who takes your beer to Colorado.
Right. There you go.
Sorry.
So if you if that's what they're looking for, kind of steer them in this direction, and 9 times out of 10, it's something that they enjoy. The other thing that we've enjoyed to see is from the day we opened, we had several people, and every week we have people looking for Bud Light. Over the course of the past year, some of our repeat customers have gone from Bud Light drinkers to Gateway drinkers to now Ruckus IPA drinkers and stouts and everything else. So one of our original missions has been to educate our consumer, and it seems to be working.
That's
so
very, very important.
Yeah.
And you'll find that person will have a hard time drinking what they used to drink forever and ever in a day.
Absolutely.
Once they're converted. You might not be able to convert everybody, but and those become the fun ones.
Absolutely.
Because you're training a true nerd then. A beer nerd. And
That's true.
and I used to jokingly call anybody who was in the basement at the brewery beer nerds.
Yep.
That's where the beer nerds hung out.
Absolutely.
They go talk about your wine upstairs and your socks and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
But, some of your other beers that are canned here, you have a blueberry and an IPL.
Yeah, so our blueberry, back a couple years ago, we started we made a strawberry beer because since the 70s, Bolivar's had an annual strawberry festival. We used to have a big strawberry farm right outside of town, and it's a really good time. So kind of to coincide, make something local for that. Proved to be very fruitful, and we decided to keep making a fruit-style beer most of the year. So winter, blueberries are still available at your grocery store, so we can use those and along with some fruit puree to make a blueberry ale. And then the IPL, we take our lager yeast and we brew a lager-based beer that's very well hopped. So it's an India Pale Lager as opposed to IPA. We went with some more traditional hops than that. We used some Cascade and Centennial, pretty aggressive dry hopping to give it a lot of aroma, and we think it turned out pretty nice.
With so many breweries popping up here and there, what makes Lockport Brewery different from everybody else?
I think there's probably a couple things. Obviously, we were the first brewery in this area in Tuscarawas County. So for a couple years, we were the only game in town. So that helps because you're really introducing a lot of people around here to the craft beer scene. I think that Andrew just makes, and Nick, our assistant brewer, they just make solid, consistent beers that are good representations of their style. So I think that a lot of them are approachable beers, which helps, when you're bringing craft beer into this area. I think that another thing for us is our events, like we were talking about with marketing. We try to make it a place that you come and you want to hang out. The staff that's serving you, you've developed a rapport with them, they know you, they know what kind of beer you want to drink, and it's just a place you can come have a solid beer, have some good food, and have a good time.
Listen to some great music on vinyl.
Listen to great music on vinyl and have a good time.
That's
yeah.
absolutely correct.
Yeah, I mean, we're lucky that a lot of our staff has been with us almost since the beginning. So it's not a new face every time you sit down at the bar. You're recognizing people and they know you and you know them. So I think that whole package, pulled together really helps. Andrew, he doesn't like to talk about it, but winning the gold medal at the Great American Beer Festival, that helps.
Here. Yeah, that's still an awesome thing, no matter how you look at it.
Yeah, helps provide a little validity, for what you're doing here, that somebody outside of our four walls thinks that we're doing something pretty cool.
So did you guys celebrate that with your family? Because I know your family likes to have a good time.
So I was actually at a wedding the day of the awards ceremony. Andrew was in Colorado with my family.
Yes. So we definitely
cool.
celebrated that day, and then again actually for the rest of the week. So
I flew out the next day, and he made me wear the medal around. It was a little hokey, but I got a lot of free beer, so that it made up for me not being there on a ceremony day.
I can't think of anything I'd much rather do than wear a medal that gets me free beer.
Right.
Hey, can I borrow that?
Yeah. There you go.
All right. So in wrapping it up here, we'd just like to thank you both. You got some great things coming, some beautiful facilities. We wish Lockport Brewery the best, and thanks for taking the time and talking to us today.
And thanks for being our customer. We see you in the bar from time to time. So,
Absolutely.
We appreciate that too, and thanks for coming out and thinking of us, and we've had a good time.
All right, well, thank you very much.
Okay. Thanks.
We're here in the brewing facility of Lockport Brewery, and Andrew, give us the schematics of this place. Tell us what's going on and how some things happened.
Sure.
I mean, I noticed some names on some tanks, and man, they look all spit and polished, ready to go.
Yep. So as I mentioned before, we were pretty much over capacity as soon as we opened the other space. So these tanks are a little bit bigger. These are 4 fermenters that we added over here. These are the tanks where fermentation occurs and wort is turned into beer. And these tanks are 15 barrels, and the other tanks are about 7. So a barrel is 2 kegs. So these tanks produce about the equivalent of 30 kegs of beer. Our original cellar tanks over at the older facility they came named because we bought them used. The brewery that owned them had grown bigger, and they sold the tanks to us, and they were very successful, so we decided to keep the names. Those names came from German Oktoberfest songs. We added 2 more over there that have since migrated over here. Those are named after Lauren and I's mothers. It's Mary Beth and Kathleen. And then for these 4 tanks, we decided to go with grandmothers. So Joanna Marilyn and Gloria Barbara. And so far we're hoping we get the same good luck from them that we've had with the others.
All right. And you've added 2 new tanks?
We had 2
3
new tanks over there. All these 4 tanks are new as well.
Okay. And moving them was not a problem.
It was not too much of a problem. It wasn't without its challenges, but we were able to get a team of good guys together, some of our contractors. The forklift was a big help as well. We got them upright, we got them into place, and hopefully they're staying there. So.
All right. Next, we're going to take a look at the brew kettle. So we're back with Andrew talking a little bit about the brew kettle. The system looks pretty much state-of-the-art from what I can tell.
Yeah, so we elected to go with a brew house from Deutsche Beverage Technology out of North Carolina. This is a 7.5 barrel brew house. What we do is we brew on it twice to fill the 15s. It's a 2-vessel brew house, so we have a combination mash slaughter tun over here on my right, and on the left we have the kettle. That's where we boil the wort and add hops. The large tank in the back is known to brewers as the hot liquor tank. It's basically a big tank of hot water, and that's all the hot water we'll need over the course of brew day. We also have touchscreen controls on all the brew house so that we can maintain very accurate temperatures and processes, make sure we're making a very consistent product. We can monitor everything here, not just for the brew house, but for the cellar as well.
So what you're saying is I can make beer, just start tapping around,
just start punching
just
numbers.
like my iPhone?
There you go.
Okay.
Yep. So yeah, we're only on our 3rd or 4th brew into it so far, but it's working very well, and we hope to be, make it a workhorse going into the spring and summer.
Does this thing have a name?
Not yet, but that's a good idea. I think we'll have to come up with something for the brew house.
Since there's a lot of females, tanks names, I suggest a male maybe.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea. There we go. Just one.
All right, Andrew, we're here at the mill room. Some of the grains that you get, some milled, some not.
We're doing mostly unmilled grain right now, but because we operate in both facilities and this facility has a mill, the other one doesn't, we do buy both. So some of our grain comes crushed, some of it gets crushed here. The advantage of crushing it here is kind of twofold. One, the grain stays better longer, so it stays fresher because the kernel is whole, but also we can control the crush. So that helps us with running the brew house appropriately, making sure we're getting the extraction out of each kernel of grain that we need, and that's advantageous in several ways.
And cost-wise too, is it a little cheaper?
We save 5 cents on every pound of grain by doing it ourselves versus paying somebody to do it. So
good deal.
Yep.
What are some of the grains that we have in here right now?
So in here, the big pile of white red bags, is our base malt. It's from a company called Weyermann, which are in Germany. It's a Pilsner malt. And then we also have some Brice Munich malt, and we use Munich malt from another maltery in France. We use malt from the Netherlands, and you name it. It's made all over the world, and we try to combine as many different kinds of malt as we can to create a unique wort to make beer with.
Did you do a lot of research as far as, you know, I'm sure you got entertained as soon as you put your Lockport Brewery on the map that you know, you got salesmen calling you saying, hey, ours is the best, that type of thing?
We do. Those guys are pretty helpful. There's only a couple major players in the U.S. when it comes to supplying most craft breweries. The nice thing about them is it's sort of a one-stop shop. You can deal with one salesman, and you can look at a bunch of different kinds of grain they offer. So we deal with those guys quite a bit. They're pretty helpful. They have reports on all of the different metrics we can track on the grain, and we get those regularly to make sure that the product stays in line. You got to start with really good ingredients to end up with really good beers. So we pay close attention to that.
All right. Well, we got pretty much everything covered here in the brew house. Next thing you know, we're going to be heading over to the other location and trying some beers. All right. We're here at Lockport Brewery talking to some patrons, and joining me this time around, your name, sir?
Mike Alt.
Mike Alt. And Mike, you are a local?
Yes, I live here in Bolivar in the Wilshire Hills area.
Okay, and you frequent Lockport Brewery?
Oh, it's just a short trip down the hill for us.
Oh, well, that's a good thing. And the reason why is the beer?
Is the beer.
And you also are a Mug Club member.
Yeah, we just became a Mug Club member this year after waiting for a couple years.
Oh, you've had to wait a couple years.
Yes, we did.
Well, that's a cool thing. You know, it's a good thing if you have to wait a couple years to.
That's right.
To enjoy membership. You know, they say membership has privileges and that type of thing.
They have special events for members. They let you know about them in advance.
All right. So what's one of your what beer are you drinking here?
Well, tonight I'm drinking the Gateway, which is my favorite. It's a very light beer. It's like a Pilsner, and it's one of the beers that they won an award for.
Hey, awards are very important.
Yes,
thanks for joining us.
Oh, you're welcome.
All right, continuing here at Lockport, talking to some of the patrons. Joining me today is?
Dave Schaefer.
Dave Schaefer. Dave Schaefer, tell me what's in your mug of beer.
So we're drinking the, now the name escapes me.
Ruckus?
Oh, Ruckus, the
Ruckus.
IPA, yes.
Oh,
the
so
Ruckus, IPA.
Wow, it's one of their best beers here.
It is, excellent beer.
And man, that's a special looking mug you got there.
Yeah, we were just...
What's this wee stuff? She doesn't have a mug like you.
My friend Dave and I...
It's a guy thing.
We were...
Oh, you're leaving the women out of this.
We were asked to join the Mug Club, which was a big move for us. We've been coming here since it opened, and finally we were invited to join the Mug Club. So we have our own mugs.
So just living right down the road from here, you thought you needed another place to have a glass and ability to put beer in the glass.
We did. So yes, thank you. But yeah, it's a special thing.
Okay.
And the beer is excellent.
The beer is excellent?
Outstanding, yes.
All right. You would recommend it to everyone?
I would. Yeah, it's nice to have a local brewery that makes I think is really quality beer. So they have 7 or 8 different beers, and they're all very good.
All right. Well, you heard it. 7 or 8 different beers. And, a Mug Club membership to go along with that. It doesn't get any better than that.
It doesn't. Absolutely.
Interviewing more patrons here at Lockport Brewery in Bolivar, Ohio. And joining me this time is your name, sir?
Mike.
What's your last name?
Mullet.
Mike Mullet. And frequent this place?
About every other day or so. I'm about a mile down the road, so I'm far away.
And you said you've been here since day one?
Well, I started here at the grand opening. Yeah, I'm sure the grand opening.
Grand opening. What kind of beer are you drinking tonight?
Well, right now, this one right here is a blueberry or blueberry.
Okay.
Blueberry. And it's very good. It's not really a sour. It's kind of a mix, but it's very mellow. I like their choice here. They have a lot of good beers. Every one I've always had, I've never had no problem with any of the beers.
Well, good deal. And you'd recommend this to your friends and everybody out there?
They actually, when Denver got #1 for their Gateway, #1 in the Nationals. So yeah, they do a good job.
So some award-winning beers and stuff you enjoy here at the Lockport Brewery.
That's true.
We would like to thank Andrew and Lauren Marburger for their hospitality. Join us for another episode of OH-Brew as we search for Ohio's finest beers.